Okay, ladies, this one is for you. If you have ever been called intimidating before, this is for you, because there are so many stigmas out there with the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we live our lives, our characters, the way our personalities in general. And some people have a really big problem with it. And I know from personal experience that years ago when I was called intimidating, it made me feel bad. I didn't feel as though I was being intimidating. I wasn't trying to be intimidating. I was just being myself. And there were some things that I knew I had to change, that I didn't like that people thought that about me. But there were also things that I knew had nothing to do with me. So let's clear the air on what intimidating is and why it can be a really good thing. So there's a couple reasons why someone might call you intimidating. Number one, do you have a really strong presence? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you think? Do you know how you feel? Are you opinionated? Do you have a good sense of your own self? Like, you have confidence within yourself? Are you successful? Are you a good person? Do you know what you bring to the table? Do you feel like you have a good balance of, soft and sweet, and knowing who you are, and you just kind of like feel confident in your own skin? Are you good with communication? Can you articulate yourself very well? Do you know who you are in terms of how you present yourself in clothes and what works best for you? And, do you feel attractive regardless of what you actually look like? This has nothing to do with skin color, eye color, hair color, short, tall, thin, thicker. It has nothing to do with any of that. But do you feel good in your own skin? So you have to understand that everything I just put over there on that list are things that most people don't have. Most people don't know who they are. Most people don't know what they think and how they feel. Most people don't have opinions because they keep them to themselves. Most people aren't confident in their decisions. Most people aren't successful, not just from a financial standpoint, but just in life in general. Most people don't know how to create their own happiness. There are a lot of people that really don't have their stuff together. So if you feel like, wait a minute, I feel like I'm just like good, and that's intimidating, you're only going to be intimidated to the people who are insecure. You're only going to be intimidated by the people that don't have the confidence that you have. And so really, instead of being intimidated by you as that's a bad thing, they could just be intimidated by you because of how you carry yourself, because you are healthy. And one of the things with being a man or a woman that is healthy, is working on himself or herself, knows who they are, knows what they want, is sometimes you do end up being single a little bit longer than you would like, or a little bit longer than other people. And here's the reason why. You know who you are and you know what you want. You're not going to settle, and you expect a lot out of people and out of yourself. So sometimes it takes a minute to really find that. So you're always going to be intimidating to the people who feel like I don't want to say higher than them, that's not what I mean, but when you exude qualities or have things within yourself that this person doesn't have. So you're always going to kind of like shy off or scare off the people who can't kind of meet you where you're at. So this is all about vibration. This is all about energy. So if your energy is here and you feel good to go and that scares someone off, that has nothing to do with you. That's just not a person that's really at your vibration. So you're not intimidating, meaning I have to be less than. I shouldn't be this confident. I shouldn't carry myself in this way. I shouldn't voice my thoughts and opinions. It isn't about lowering the voice and kind of dumbing yourself down, but it is about kind of like staying where you are and finding the people that can meet you where you're at. Now, a big reason why people also are going to think you're intimidating is because they are comparing themselves to you. When that happens for that person, it's always going to even trigger their own insecurities, their own issues with their own self-confidence or self-esteem. It's always going to trigger the way that they themselves view themselves. So instead, in that moment of that person being intimidated by you, whether it is a man or a woman, and dealing with how their own inner talk and the way that they're shaming themselves and they're making themselves feel bad because they're comparing you to this person in front of you, right? So because they're comparing themselves to you and they're starting to feel bad about themselves, rather than self-parenting themselves and kind of boosting themselves up and loving themselves, they're just making you out to be the problem because you're not, again, down at their level. And people oftentimes will even say you're intimidating and say it as if it's a bad thing, because they're not dealing really with their own triggers of insecurity. It takes a lot of work to be able to spot when something's triggering you, whether it's from another person or a situation, or even if you're triggering your own self, and really owning that trigger and dealing with it so you can kind of move on from it, so you can heal it. But a lot of people don't want to do that. And quite frankly, a lot of people can't even recognize the trigger. They just blame the person who triggered them rather than owning their own trigger and taking responsibility for it. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about when you're intimidating and it's not a good thing. So if you can be honest with yourself, if someone's ever called you intimidating, try for a second to see, first of all, for me personally, because I have been called intimidating, I always want to know, why do you think that? And so when I hear someone come at me, or when I hear what someone has to say, I want to really listen to it. And there's really only one big thing that I think is universal in terms of being intimidating as a bad thing. And that's going to be when you are unapproachable. Now, you could be unapproachable to someone because they're just so insecure and nervous to kind of go up to you and talk to you or approach you. Or you could be unapproachable because of how you're carrying yourself, and it's not in a healthy, confident way. It's actually in more a defensive way. So now we start going into your triggers and your wounds. So there's two huge things towards being more approachable. So if you've ever heard the term resting face, right? Like, hey, I feel like you always have resting face, you know what I mean? Then this is really going to help you. So chances are there's a story that you've made up in your mind that then causes this face to kind of appear, whether you're at a bar, whether you're at a club, whether you're at a restaurant, whether you're at a party, whether you're out with friends, whatever the case is, you just have this look on yourself like you're not happy. And this is really your defensiveness. This is really where right before someone even approaches you, you've already created a story about this person, about what they have to say, about what's going to happen, and your personality has completely changed because that face that shows up is not your true self. That's your defensive self. That's your bodyguard. That's the person that's showing up to try to take charge and avoid this annoying conversation or this uncomfortable conversation, or this person that is going to try really hard and the answer is going to be no, or all men do this, or all women are like this. And so now here's the thing, to be approachable, you have to have two qualities. You have to enjoy yourself and your life, which is you have to have good energy, and your body language has to be different. So if I'm at a restaurant and I'm standing at the bar and I'm having a cocktail with a girlfriend and I'm just sitting there and I might be talking to her and having a great time and laughing and smiling, but the minute someone approaches me, my whole demeanor completely changes. I am now completely closed off. And that doesn't mean that when anyone approaches you, you have to be so open to every conversation. Maybe you're not. Maybe you are not interested. It's just your energy and the way you carry yourself. Do you smile more? Is your body language just more light and confident and relaxed? Or is it a little closed off and, shoulders in, sitting like this? Are you just more defensive, or are you more open? I think the more you can stop creating stories in your head and not cut people off when they're talking and give people time to speak and make eye contact and smile and just be your graceful, amazing, confident, healthy self, then you'll just have a different energy. But if you always come to the table with an attitude, with defensiveness, with I don't want to talk to anyone, with everyone, is annoying, or I don't want to be here, or whatever that looks like, then you're never going to be an approachable person. But if you are being your best self and someone still thinks you're intimidating, then that's their problem, not yours. I hope you've enjoyed this video, you guys. See you next week.